We met unexpectedly in the hospital on the day I received my husband's diagnosis report. He came to buy medicine for a female colleague who was suffering from dysmenorrhea, and he was holding a few packs of tampons in his hand. He asked me, "Is it really okay for unmarried girls to use tampons?" He was also worried that he would become addicted to the painkillers, so he insisted that I make an appointment with a specialist for him, in 1 hour. He mentioned the female colleague's name hundreds of times. Lin Shuyan suffers from dysmenorrhea and has never had sex, which makes people feel sorry for her. I suddenly remembered that the doctor frowned and asked me if I wanted to try the surgery. I am still so sure. I need treatment. I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. What's wrong with being alone? My colleague at the hospital hesitated to speak and said that Xu Yanghui's report was out. I already guessed that the result might not be optimistic. If the blood clot continues to grow, it could compress the optic nerve. I have seen similar operations before, and even my mentor, Mr. Yu, was helpless. I stuffed the report into my bag and walked out worriedly. I was confused and thought of countless excuses, but I still didn't know how to tell Xu Yanghui. He has been extremely busy at the company lately. It's been more than half a month since the report came out and I still haven't had time to pick it up. At this moment, I am worried but also somewhat relieved that it is not too late. I breathed a sigh of relief and looked up to see Xu Yanghui standing in the registration line. He also saw me, and there was a hint of joy in his eyes. "Wife," he strode towards me, "it will be easy if you are here. Please help me get an appointment with a gynecologist." I looked down and paused at the packets of tampons in his hands. He wasn't embarrassed. "I bought this for Lin Shuyan. The little girl is having menstrual cramps again. The gynecology appointment was also made for her," Xu Yanghui explained. "She asked me to prescribe some painkillers for her, so I wanted to ask her if this kind of food has any effect on her body." As if remembering something, he moved closer to me and lowered his voice. "Do you think it's appropriate for an unmarried girl to use this?" He raised the tampon in his hand. "The main thing is that she has never even tried that before, and she's taking random pills and using this kind of internal one." Seeing my face getting darker, he lowered his voice, as if he noticed something was wrong. This is not the first time he has bought it for her. When the sanitary napkin brand collapsed, he asked me a lot of questions. That time he scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. "I'm the only married person in the department. It's not embarrassing to buy this." What bothered me was not only that his reasons were untenable. A few months ago, his department was on a team-building trip and a car accident occurred on the way. He was the most seriously injured among them. While no one else in the car was hurt, the newcomer Lin Shuyan was also in the car. When I rushed to the emergency room, the young and delicate girl cried more like his wife than I did. He almost fainted while holding the nurse's hand, and it was only when I pinched his philtrum that he regained consciousness. Recently, Xu Yanghui has mentioned her so frequently that I can no longer ignore it, but looking at his eyes at this moment, I still endured it and didn't ask more questions. "Do you have a headache today?" He lowered his head and replied. "It hurt for a while, but Lin Shuyan gave me some massages and it got much better." My heart ached and I glanced at the screen out of the corner of my eye. The dear avatar was pinned to the top of his list. I was the only one in that position before. After asking the expert and getting a definite answer, Xu Yanghui was obviously relieved. I looked at him intently. And up until this moment he had never asked me why I was here. I've been on sick leave for several months since I hurt my wrist. It seems that during this period of time, he comes home later and later. Now he took the medicine box from my hand. "I'll go back to the company first. Have you driven yet?" The question was asked casually, which made my mind sink deeper and deeper. The smell of plaster coming from my body even made the expert who had just examined me ask a few more questions out of concern. "Still not getting better. Do you want to try going to the orthopedic department to get some new medicine?" But Xu Yanghui seemed to have forgotten. He looked very anxious and wanted to rush back without stopping for a moment. When I showed him my not-so-flexible wrist, he was stunned. There seems to be guilt on his face. "Let me take you back first." I nodded and walked out. Under normal circumstances, I would be sensible enough to let him go to the company and I would just take a taxi. But my chest felt stuffy and the image of the deer's head kept lingering in front of my eyes. Xu Yanghui hesitated for a moment and followed. He opened the passenger door before I could, and leaned over to throw things into the back seat, but I still saw it and smelled it. The sweet scent of peach fragrance filled the air and the chair back was lowered very low. What he threw into the back seat was a pink bunny lumbar pillow. It belongs to my colleague. I forgot to take it back again. I didn't say anything. Xu Yanghui always kept his head down and spoke in a low voice when he lied. He used to keep his head down like this when he was waiting to meet me by chance on the main road of the medical school. Chen Xiaoran, what a coincidence. Why are you here? Everyone says that I have a calm personality and I shouldn't have chosen such a dull man. Brother, let alone Rang, couldn't help but make fun of him. If you quarrel, you two will just be like two wooden figures. Halfway through the journey, Xu Yanghui had already turned on the Bluetooth headset and answered several phone calls, even though he was just okay, and deserved it flawlessly. But in order to avoid otitis media, the earphones I chose for him were half covered, and the sound insulation was actually very limited. I could clearly hear a pleasant female voice inside. I can even imagine her coquettish look when she acts like a spoiled brat. Brother Xu, we're all waiting for you. If you're 10 minutes late, I'll have to drink for you. Xu Yanghui's eyebrows were obviously frowned. Don't drink. The car stopped at a red light. He was silent for a long time and suddenly looked at me. We have a departmental lunch this afternoon. What he meant was that he probably hoped to take a taxi home by himself at the next intersection. I avoided his gaze and took out a lipstick mirror from my bag to touch up my lipstick. That's perfect. I haven't seen your colleagues for a long time. His medical examination report appeared in the open bag and I handed it to him. I had prepared all kinds of words to persuade him, but now I swallowed them back before they even reached my lips. He just glanced at it and threw it into the back seat. It's not a big deal, but you insisted that I go for a comprehensive checkup. I suddenly remembered how he looked when he woke up in the hospital. He looked around blankly and muttered to himself, "Wife, I almost thought I would never see you again. In the future, we will still have a future." The car stopped outside the restaurant and Lin Xuyen hurried down the stairs. The joy on her face froze the moment I opened the car door. Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law is here too. He looked at Xu Yanghui inquiringly. Why didn't you tell me in advance? I smiled indifferently and walked straight in. Xu Yanghui's voice came slowly from behind. Your medicine. Thanks to your sister-in-law who arranged the number, you can take it without worry. But the scent of peaches lingered when Lin Xuyen passed by me. I was distracted and didn't hear clearly what she said. When we entered the private room, Lin Xuyen kindly added a seat for me, next to Xu Yanghui. One on each side. Our colleague's eyes flickered between the three of us, but no one said anything. I don't know how Xu Yanghui gets along with her in normal times, but now sitting next to me, he seemed much more reserved, but when someone handed him a wine glass, he hurriedly blocked it. Don't let Lin Xuyen drink anymore, she's having her period. This casual remark made me, who was sitting next to him, even more uneasy. I don't know who will expose it, Brother Xu. Married people are more considerate of others. The door of the private room was closed and the smell of alcohol made me dizzy. I found an excuse to go out and relax, but the depression in my heart sank like a huge rock. There were a few faint laughs coming from the stairwell, and they sounded familiar. Being married has become Laro Xu's get-out-of-jail-free card. He doesn't even restrain himself in front of his wife. Do you think his wife knows about it? He and Lin Xuyen were the ones who sneaked out after the last car accident. Hush, what's the point of knowing this? Your husband accompanied a young girl to practice driving, and the car flipped over, but he threw himself in front of the girl. TSK TSK, the laughter died down, but it became more deafening in my heart. After the car accident, he suffered from headaches, but when I mentioned reporting the work injury, he always gave vague excuses. It turns out there is a hidden story behind this. I remembered what my colleague at the hospital said. The blood clot may cause him headaches, but if it presses on the retina, he may go blind. Someone patted my shoulder, and I turned around to see Lin Xuyen's smiling face. Sister-in-law, why are you still eavesdropping on other people's conversations? She came closer, and the sweet aroma spread more and more. Brother Xu is drunk and just told me to drive you back. She suddenly reached out and pinched my wrist where the plaster was applied. It's a big deal if the doctor's hand is injured. The piercing pain was like a little snake climbing through the blood vessels and rushing towards my heart. I broke my wrist the day they had the accident. A patient who had been waiting for his lover for a long time suddenly slashed at me with a knife. Even if I saw her, she wouldn't come back to me. So what's the point of having these eyes? It was my colleagues who risked their lives to save me and protected my hand. Afterwards, the senior brother was still frightened when he was operated on. If it's half a centimeter more, your hand will be useless. Xu Yonghui didn't know the reason, he just mentioned it a few times in the past few months. I thought you would rush to see me first after the car accident. After all, I'm not as important as your patients. Every time he mentioned it, he had drunk some wine, like now when he was sitting in the car, under the influence of alcohol. He spoke the truth as a joke. Lin Xuyan's driving was average, and after starting and stopping several times I felt like vomiting. I knew she was always watching me in the rearview mirror. Xu Yonghui was really drunk, leaning on my shoulder like a puddle of mud. It seems like we haven't held hands like this for many years. Every time he murmured, the hot smell of alcohol would brush against my cheeks. Everyone says I married a good wife. But Chen Xiaoran, do you think you are good? He shook his head and pointed at Lin Xuyan in front of him. The company needs me, my colleagues need me, everyone needs me. He slumped back in his chair again. It seems that you are the only one who doesn't need it. You have your patients and your surgeries are enough. The wind came in through the gaps in the car window, and the coldness seeped into the skin bit by bit. I remember when we just got married, he was always waiting in the duty room with a lunchbox in hand, full of enthusiasm. Saving the dying and healing the wounded is the most important thing in the world. I am willing to be the man behind the angel. The person who was always said to be dull said these words solemnly when she lifted the veil at the wedding. In just 3 years, things have changed. The car stopped and Xu Yonghui had already opened the door and was staggering down. Lin Xuyan jumped out of the car and skillfully put her arm around his shoulders, half hugging and half supporting him. She let his weight rest on her. I just stared at their intimacy, my steps as heavy as if filled with mud. When he reached the door of the building, Xu Yonghui suddenly stopped and looked up, then turned around. I said I'm not going home, Lin Xuyan. I still want to stay at your house today. I watched as the girl who was supporting him lost all color in an instant. Xu Yonghui was completely drunk. Don't worry, I'll sleep on the sofa. I'm married now, so I know the limits. Lin Xuyan's voice became hoarse, and she looked up at me with a guilty conscience. Brother Xu is drunk. Only when you are drunk can you speak the truth. I suppressed the turmoil in my heart. He can go wherever he wants. I walked upstairs, but my fingers were shaking when I pressed the number. The sound of the car door closing behind me and starting up to drive away was extremely clear. I slowly turned my head, and seemed to see the desolate ruins of a failed marriage. In the early hours of the morning, a message came from Xu Yonghui's number. The slender fingers are wrapped around another bony hand. The people you don't cherish, there will always be someone who treats them as treasures. I stroked the screen and watched it many times, until I was so heartbroken that I clicked delete. I flipped through the pages and saw a message from my senior brother in the afternoon. Chen Xiaoran, I tell you seriously again. You are irresponsible to yourself if you take the risk of doing this kind of surgery. Your hands are your treasure, you can't waste them like this. Now I know how to respond to him. Once Xu Yonghui's blood clot develops to the point of compressing his retina, there will be only one person who can successfully perform surgery on him. But the man's hand was injured. Unless she undergoes open-mouth surgery to close the cracked part, however, the success rate of this operation has not been effectively verified. She originally wanted to take a risk. Now, she doesn't want to anymore. The night Xu Yonghui slept at Lin Xuyan's house, she drafted the divorce agreement with her slightly clumsy hands. I was in a steady mood that morning and had a not-so-healthy breakfast downstairs, soy milk and fried dough sticks. Oil stuck between my fingers, and I remembered that I didn't bring any paper. The old lady setting up the stall pulled a piece of tissue out of her apron and stuffed it into my hand. Why didn't your husband buy breakfast today? I was stunned for a moment, but quickly came to my senses and couldn't help but laugh with my head down. He has been going out early and coming back late in the past few months, so I guess the breakfast he bought was for someone else, but just like he is in the company. As long as his loving wife persona is intact, he can overcome unlimited minefields. Having a wife can also be his authority. I quickly wiped it clean, hailed a car and rushed to the hospital. The seminar was held in a closed session for the whole morning. When I walked out of the meeting room, I saw Shu Younghui standing at the end of the corridor. The sunlight penetrated through the window, and he couldn't see his expression because he was backlit. But the huge bunch of flowers on his chest was very dazzling. As he walked towards me, the uneasiness and guilt on his face became more and more obvious. "Honey, I drank too much yesterday. Xiao Lin said I said a lot of stupid things. Can you please be magnanimous and not hold it against me?" He spoke this very fluently. Obviously he had practiced it many times on the way here. "Is the sofa comfortable to sleep on?" His face darkened. "I was drunk." "That's not the case, honey. I will stop drinking from now on. Quit drinking, report overtime." These are the things he promised me before we got married, but in fact he never did them. Colleagues who were at the seminar had already dispersed one after another, and only my senior brother came towards us after chatting with someone. His gaze shifted from the bouquet of flowers to Shu Younghui's face. "We will study your surgery further, so don't worry too much." Shu Younghui was a little confused. "What surgery?" The senior brother glanced at me and said nothing more. He just patted my shoulder comfortingly. "Get ready early. We need to fly over here as early as this week." As his senior brother walked away, the confusion on Shu Younghui's face became more and more serious. "Wait, honey, where are you flying to? Isn't your sick leave not over yet?" I looked at the corner of paper sticking out of his suit jacket pocket and slowly took a step back. "Shu Younghui, you actually went home and saw the divorce agreement I signed." His face became increasingly darker, and his lips trembled slightly. "You don't want to go home, and I don't want to go back either. It's just like when we planned to get married, and we still have a tacit understanding now. I accepted a 1-month research exchange to Country M. I hope that when we return, we will all be truly free." I turned to leave, but he hurried forward and grabbed my sleeve. "Chen Xiaoran, are you sure you think this way?" It felt like countless ants were crawling across my heart, leaving behind dense traces. As I slowly pulled back my sleeves, I heard my voice was so flat, as if I was talking about an insignificant matter. "The day you accompanied Lin Shuyan in driving practice and had a car accident, my wrist was cut off by a patient. When I saw you still unconscious in the ward, my only thought was, luckily, you didn't see me covered in blood." Showing weakness appropriately is what I learned from Lin Shuyan's Weibo. A few months ago I had a difficult patient named Shen Jiayu. Even though his eye disease had reached the point where he needed surgery urgently, he was still obsessed with getting his ex-girlfriend to change her mind. His girlfriend became cold towards him after she started her internship at the company. At that time, he complained to me from time to time while he was undergoing the examination. She always complained that I was careless and didn't know how to care for her. During her period, I only gave her hot water to drink. The nurse couldn't help laughing and had to comfort him. "Wait until your surgery is successful, and then make her some red sugar water if you encounter this situation again." Shen Jiayu's mood became more and more depressed day by day, until the nurse found his ex-girlfriend's Weibo homepage. I was on night shift that day and flipped through it. The girl with the deer avatar uses Weibo as her circle of friends, recording all the interesting things that happened during her internship. One of them caught my attention. "It's easier to approach a married man." The girl said that everyone in the company had their own ulterior motives, and a small-town girl like her with no background was always avoided. "These days, everyone's worth is secretly marked, but I don't have to be with them." She said that her married colleague took good care of her and would give her whatever she wanted as long as she showed weakness. As long as a girl is gentle enough, there will always be a man who will stand by you through thick and thin. During the time when Shen Jiayu was in the worst mood, we tried to contact his ex-girlfriend by phone. The other party repeatedly rejected the call, and the only time he answered it, he just sneered. "Why isn't he dead yet?" The first time I heard her name was when Shen Jiayu swung his knife at me. "Dr. Chen, I'm sorry, I know Lin Shuyan won't come." A few days later, I saw Lin Shuyan in Shu Younghui's ward. She had cried so hard that she almost fainted. It turns out that the married man she hooked up with was mine. The world is indeed a huge circle, I received a message from Xu Yanghui on my way to the airport. Wife, we haven't reached the point where we should get divorced. I'll pick you up and we'll have a good talk. I think it's ridiculous. Almost a week had passed since he saw the divorce agreement, and he finally remembered to talk to me. I know that he has finally pieced together the whole story of my accident these days. I guess I finally understood why I reacted so violently every time he accidentally touched my wrist in the past few months. Isn't it just a sprain? Does it hurt that much? He asked me this more than once. But he never offered to accompany me to the hospital. He sent several more messages with humble words. I shared my location, but I knew he couldn't come. Lin Xuyan updates her Weibo very frequently. My married colleague started avoiding me, saying his wife wanted a divorce. What should I do? I think this is my chance. Will it be more comfortable if I put warm water in the bathtub? I'm betting that if I cut a thin line of blood, will he be able to tell that I don't really want to die? He was very hesitant and asked me to call 120. The broadcast prompted boarding. I took a look at the empty hall, turned around and walked straight ahead. I closed my eyes slightly as the plane passed through the clouds. I can vaguely hear the vows Xu Yanghui made at the wedding that year, which he swore in tears. I'll risk my life for you. But in the end, you failed to be even loyal. After landing and restarting the computer, the Weibo homepage, which I had not yet logged out of, was updated. He came, not 120, but I still waited for him. I think I won. Marriage is useless in the face of desire and worship. A delayed message pops up at this time. Wife, wait for me. It was dozens of hours ago. I stood in the vastness of a foreign country and felt that life was fully presented to me. Sometimes it only takes a short while to become a joke. Staying and waiting is a joke in itself. Just like Shenjiayu, a few days later, Xu Yanghui called, without waiting for him to explain. I simply exposed him. If your repeated betrayal doesn't warrant a divorce, then what does? He was silent for a long time before he laughed at himself. Whatever you say is what I always listen to you. This time is no exception. He agreed to the divorce, and acted like he was forced to do so by me. During the month of the seminar, I had a busy but peaceful life. I didn't know someone had dug up Lin Xuyan's Weibo. Their ambiguous relationship became a hot topic in the company. Being married can no longer be a shield for Xu Yanghui. He quickly posted the signed divorce application. When I mention it, I always look indignant. It was nothing. But she forced me to do something. As much envied the couple were in the past, so much ridicule is now placed behind their backs. Lin Xuyan has closed her updates for nearly half a year, because someone found out that she abandoned her first boyfriend without hesitation when he fell ill. The details are constantly magnified. For example, almost all of her living expenses during her 4 years in college were saved by the boy through working part-time. For example, when she left without saying goodbye, she also gave up the house they rented together just to get the deposit. Lin Xuyan changed her signature a few days later. No one should be brave. I admit that I am weak, but I am not a bad person. But I heard that her current rental apartment was not renewed and the landlord insisted on asking her to move out. The news spread quickly and it took a long time for it to reach me. Xu Yanghui would send me messages almost every day asking me, "When are you going to return? Let's go submit the application." He seemed impatient, as if staying in the marriage for one more day would be torture for Lin Xuyan. On the day I returned home, he even brought her with him to pick me up. From a distance, he watched me dragging my suitcase towards him step by step. He didn't reach out his hand, but just glanced at the car parked outside with a complicated expression. "If you're free today," I calmly interrupted him. "Available." He was slightly stunned, his hands hanging at his sides curled up slightly, and he turned and walked out. When I opened the back door and got in, Lin Xuyan turned her head and smiled at me. "Thank you, sister-in-law, for your help." This simple title made Xu Yanghui frown. The car stalled several times and his hands were shaking a little as he gripped the steering wheel. After submitting the application, he didn't even dare to look at me and got into the car and left. Instead, Lin Xuyan rolled down the car window and smiled with a bit of pride. "See you in a month. We have no property to distribute." Before that, I lived in a house assigned to me by the hospital. After submitting the application, I simply packed up his things and threw them out the door. When I took a photo and sent it over, there was a little red dot in front. I burst out laughing. A few days later, the cleaning staff cleaned it up thoroughly. My senior was still upset about my cancellation of leave, but after hearing that several research consensuses were reached after the seminar, he changed his attitude. You really need to get used to research work sooner rather than later. Ever since Dr. You is no longer the main surgeon. My senior brother cherishes my time on the operating table more than anyone else, but the pain is irreversible, and he wants me to find a new track more than anyone else. I only found out after I returned to the ward. During the month I attended the seminar, the hospital called Xu Yonghui many times and asked him to go for a follow-up examination. He either refused to answer or hung up before anyone could finish speaking. There were a few times when Lin Xuyen took the call. Isn't it just a headache? I gave him a massage. A month passed in a flash. On the day of getting the divorce certificate, Lin Xuyen was in another line to get a marriage certificate. Her eyes were full of anticipation, and she had specially tied a snow-white veil around her head. The moment we got the divorce certificate, I couldn't wait to call Xu Yonghui. Honey, it's our turn soon. Xu Yonghui looked at me deeply, pursed his thin lips and walked towards her. I turned and walked out, and she called me with a smile. Can't you be more generous and take a commemorative photo for us? Generous? I turned around. Xu Yonghui, who was holding the marriage certificate with her, frowned, but sweat kept oozing out of my forehead, as if the pain was extreme. His eyes gradually lost focus from dimness. He murmured, "Wife, I can't see clearly." Xu Yonghui was rushed to the hospital. While exchanging information with the emergency doctor in the car, Lin Xuyen stared at me. She looked scared. Especially after I made the initial judgment that the patient was suffering from retinal detachment, she cried out in panic, "You're talking nonsense. He's obviously fine." Xu Yonghui was dazedly trying to capture the light and shadow that did not exist at all, as if grasping at a life-saving straw. He looked hard in the direction of my voice. "Old Xiaoran, I'm not serious, right? You are an authority on ophthalmology. Do you think I am under too much pressure?" He tried to find excuses for himself, but became more and more flustered. Until he was sent to the ward, he was still trying to find my answer. After completing the handover, I looked at the resident who hurried over and nodded. When Xu Yonghui heard that I was leaving, he became more nervous. "Chen Xiaoran, where are you going?" Even though the doctor patiently told him that his current condition required further examination before a treatment plan could be formulated, he always turned a deaf ear to it, just kept calling me. At first he called her Chen Xiaoran, but when Lin Xuyen tightly grabbed his hand that was reaching out to me, he shook it off angrily. "Honey, did the doctor make a mistake? If it's true, there's no way you wouldn't be by my side at a time like this. Honey, I need you. Every sentence is like a thorn." I looked at him indifferently, and now he needed me again. "Xu Yonghui, you didn't even read the diagnosis report, did you?" He looked up blankly and recalled, his face turning paler the more he thought about it. I saw it, but I didn't take it seriously at the time. The hospital called me many times, but I thought it was just a headache." He turned toward me expectantly. "You're sure you have a way, right?" My senior brother had informed me of the current situation as early as during the seminar. He can only hope that the blood clot doesn't press on the nerves. When he learned that I had already filed for divorce from Xu Yonghui at that time, my senior brother was silent for a long time. No wonder. I burst out laughing. Isn't it very utilitarian? When I loved him, I was willing to take the risk of having my wrists sealed, but when I found myself being let down, I just wanted to get out of here. He's not worth the risk. If I could risk my life for him, I could do the same for my other patients. The pain in my arm was too sharp. I lowered my head and looked at Xu Yonghui's hands that were tightly holding mine. It turned white due to overexertion. It took a lot of effort for me to pull my arm free. I can't help it. "You forget that my hand is already broken." Sweat kept dripping down his forehead and even his voice was trembling. "No, you must be deliberately trying to punish me like this." I leaned over and spoke word by word slowly, fearing that he might miss something in his panic. "While you were concerned about whether your female colleague could take painkillers for menstrual cramps, did you ever think about whether my wrist could recover after completing a series of examinations?" Xu Yanghui received the news he least wanted to hear: permanent blindness. These 4 words were enough to completely defeat him. He pounded the bed and himself like crazy and demanded to see me. But the nurses and doctors just comforted him and didn't spoil him. Instead, Lin Xuyen forced her way into the ward duty room several times. The closest she came was right outside my door. "Chen Xiaoran, I know you were in there. You did it on purpose. What kind of doctor are you? You watched someone die without helping him," she cried and screamed, as if she wanted to vent all her emotions by cursing me. When my senior brother heard this, he frowned, patted my shoulder and walked out. I don't know what he said. After that day, Lin Xuyen never came to see me again. It was more than half a month later that I saw Xu Yanghui again. It was a sunny day and I walked towards the cafeteria with my hands in the pockets of my white coat. He sat in a wheelchair, looking blankly ahead. Not far away, Lin Xuyen was completing the discharge procedures for him. I wanted to walk away, but he seemed to notice and suddenly called me. "Chen Xiaoran, is that you?" I stood there without moving. He frantically turned the wheel with both hands, trying to get closer to me, but he was not yet proficient in it, and he moved it left and right but remained in the same place. He deflated and looked up a little frustrated. "Doctor, he came to see me. He said that no one except you could perform my surgery with confidence." He paused for a moment, his eyes turning red. "If it were you in the past, you wouldn't give up on me so easily." I looked at Lin Xuyen, who had hurried over and was clinging to the wheelchair vigilantly. "What are you talking about?" I couldn't help but smile. If it weren't for that accident, I would have been able to perform similar surgeries. "If you want to blame someone, I don't know who to blame first. You were too considerate to the new intern, and she started to have inappropriate thoughts about you. Or do you blame this girl for abandoning her sick boyfriend for you? Or should I blame the patient who cut my wrist, who happened to be the ex-boyfriend abandoned by this girl?" I watched as Lin Xuyen's face turned as pale as a freshly painted wall. He asked her quietly, "Do you still remember Shen Jiayu? He was waiting for you to come see him at the last moment before the operation. But where were you?" One hand was on the steering wheel, and the other hand was tentatively stroking Xu Yanghui's thigh next to him, after being discharged from the hospital. Xu Yanghui visited almost all ophthalmology hospitals. I think he, who has encountered obstacles everywhere, has heard my name countless times from my junior fellow students. He finally found senior brother I was desperately trying to get an answer as to whether I could recover. One could almost imagine how senior brother he had given him a glimmer of hope. Before she went to the seminar, she had an appointment for wrist closure surgery. Another basin of cold water was poured over his head to put out the fire. But at that time she had just learned that you had betrayed your marriage. "Xu Yanghui, no one has to take risks for you, especially her." It was more than half a year later that the research project got on track. During this period, I underwent several experimental rehabilitation treatments. Mr. Yu was afraid that I would be disappointed, so he always gave me many warnings and instructions. "You don't hold out hope. Even the slightest chance of improvement would be a medical advance, but my wrist is very good, and the recovery effect is better than expected every time. The nurse's station is the place where gossip happens the most. In my spare time, I have heard Xu Yanghui's name several times." Lin Xuyen pushed him to get the medicine, but the two of them would often suddenly argue. Many times she urged him impatiently, "What's the point of asking so many questions? If there was a way, you would have seen it long ago. How long do you want to pretend to be ignorant?" she urged him. "How long are you going to hold me back?" Later, the people who pushed Xu Yanghui here turned out to be his elderly parents. Lin Xuyen left without saying goodbye again. "I just sent a divorce petition." But Xu Yanghui refused to sign. They were like two trapped beasts, enduring the ridicule and mockery of others, and then exposing their ugliest desires to each other. She took away his last savings. Trapped in an unbreakable marriage, he spent money like crazy. When Xu Yanghui finally agreed to sign, she left without hesitation. The Weibo account was also deleted and became blank. The old man pushing the wheelchair looked up and saw me, with a look of embarrassment on his face. I wasn't the type they liked before. Only when I need to put my relatives or friends in the hospital for treatment will I emphasize that I should contribute something to the family. The dull Xu Yanghui is not strong enough in front of me. Instead, Lin Xuyan fully satisfied his desire to be admired and relied upon. Despite the passage of time, they still had the nerve to greet me. Xiao Ran, long time no see. Xu Yonghui suddenly looked up at me, but his gaze was very far away from me. Hello, long time no see. Turbid tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes and he avoided them in embarrassment. I heard that your hand has recovered a lot, he murmured, but I don't have a chance, I nodded. Sometimes waiting may not lead to good results. I just completed a retinal transplant a few days ago. Although it took nearly 11 hours, the operation was successful. Xu Yonghui was not so lucky. He had long missed the best time for diagnosis and treatment. A few years later, I returned after attending a new round of seminars. Senior brother, he took time out of his busy schedule to come and pick me up. When the car was driving on the airport highway, he suddenly mentioned Xu Yonghui. I saw him outside the hospital the other day. He was so thin that I almost didn't recognize him. He asked me about you, asking if you were still single. I couldn't help laughing. Why are you asking about your ex-wife instead of your ex-wife? His family has never given up the opportunity to help him recover over the years. He has come to me many times with old feelings, but I was always kept outside the door and didn't even have time to talk. I was stuck in that marriage, and they were doing everything they could to drain me of everything I had, while enjoying the convenience brought by being a doctor daughter-in-law. She also tried to make me submit to Xu Yonghui in family life. Before Xu Yonghui and I had completed all the formalities, they were already impatient to allow Lin Xuyan into the house. So the only things between them and me were nodding and greeting each other with long time no see. I later saw Xu Yonghui many times in the hospital lobby. He sat in his wheelchair motionless and lifeless, waiting for his elderly parents to register and get medicine. When I came out of the clinic, I heard them sighing. Sometimes, his wheelchair is parked outside my office. The door was open and we were separated from the line of patients. Whenever he heard someone call me Dr. Chen, he would always look up blankly in the direction of me. Wife, his lips trembled, Chen, but never got a response. Only once, when I hurriedly walked past him, he grabbed my sleeve as if he had used up half his life's strength. Xiao Ran, I need you. You'll always find a way. Before I could frown, a nurse came rushing over and pushed him away. Dr. Chen doesn't have any consultations today. You can make an appointment with another doctor. He hastily defended himself. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. The nurse burst out laughing. Okay, then I'll register first next time. What about your family members? Like coaxing a willful child. She's my wife. His voice faded away. Security, there's a patient over here that you may need to take care of. I put my hands in my pockets and watched him disappear into the corridor. The sunlight shines through the window and the shadows gradually disappear. The marks on my wrists were becoming increasingly blurred. And my twisted life was returning to its original state. The extra branches have long been trimmed into shape by time.